Thank you all for coming. As Steve said, this is our first HR Atmosphere event, and we're super excited at the numbers of people that we've had today, so it's a pretty phenomenal turnout for us. So I hope you enjoy the day. I am going to start just giving you a bit of an overview about myself and about the time that I've spent in Google, and then we're going to take a bit of a journey into the world of our culture, and I'm going to try to help you understand what I feel makes Google Google and our kind of secret sauce. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about two of our people-related data studies that I think could interest you that we have run from our analytics team. So as Steve said, I've worked here since 2004. I started in Google on a 3-week contract a very long time ago. They haven't gotten around to firing me yet. And I started as a recruitment coordinator, the first one in Europe at the time. So I spent a couple of years working through the staffing organization. And then I moved into working in centralized HR. And then for the last 3 years before my current role, I was working in London, driving global people programs for all of global business. And then the last year, I've spent time working as the HRBP for the enterprise organization here in Europe. So there's been a lot of change in the last 10 years. We now have 40,000 Googlers across 70+ offices in 40 countries. So there's been a huge amount of change. We've grown at a pretty fast pace. And for me, the one thing that has stayed the same, or nearly stayed the same, is our culture and the type of people that we hire and the values that we have in Google. In our organization, at the moment, we are facing a couple of significant trends that are affecting all of our people and the way that we work. We have 4 different generations of people and 4 different generations that each have different ideologies of the way that they want to work and what they want from their employer. We also have an increased emphasis on this workplace flexibility. So as you all know, people don't want to be told that they need to be at their desk 9 to 5. They want to get up in the morning, speak to Asia from their sofa, go into work a few hours, go to their child's recital, and then perhaps, I don't know, go back online and talk to America in the evening. But they want this flexibility. We also have a global workforce, and that's especially prevalent in Google. So we are working across multiple projects, spanning regions, spanning time zones. And we want to make sure that we're able to collaborate in real time and that Asia being asleep is not slowing down the project as a whole. And then every month by month, year by year, we're seeing social networking creep into our organization. So all of these trends can be seen as potentially negative for companies, but for us, actually, the tools that we use are enabling these trends. And as these trends have evolved, Google itself has evolved, and our tools too. So talking about our organization, so this is the organization that I work in. The people operations is what it's known. It's like a snazzy word for HR. We have 6 different verticals or 6 different groups in the organization. So the first one is the HR business partners like myself. And these folks work on the day-to-day HR work, but we also have a seat at the table. We sit very closely with the management team of the business that we support. We're definitely an arm in terms of strategy. They consult with us on an ongoing basis, and we're very involved in their day-to-day management. Obviously, we're always keeping the impact of people and any actions of reorgs, organizations that they are working on. We're thinking about the people on a day-to-day basis. The recruiting team is a phenomenal group. So you've heard we've had a huge amount of growth. We're 40,000 Googlers. Jamie Hinton is going to be coming on later to share the secret sauce of staffing and how we recruit and find our Googlers. Our people development team is, the layman's learning and development team. We call it people development. These guys are aligned to each HR business partner who looks after the specific business unit. So they would be working alongside me on an ongoing basis as we work with the business to determine the type of classes that we need, the type of skills that our teams are lacking, the type of programs that we need to run to develop our leadership. The compensation and benefits team kind of do exactly what it says on the tin, but within the world of Google and the other technical competitors that we're working against, they have a pretty heavy job. And the benefits team are doing all they can to be as cutting edge in terms of the benefits that they offer as possible. So, for example, at the beginning of January, we recently expanded our paternity leave from 2 weeks paid to 4 weeks paid in the UK. So that's huge competitive edge, and we try and do things to keep us a little bit better than the competitors. Our central programs team they sit in the US mostly, and they roll out global programs across the organization that aren't necessarily customized for a specific business unit. So Two examples would be our diversity team, who are working really hard to drive strategic programs across the organization so that we can really, really inject diversity of thought, diversity of background, gender, etc., into our organization. And we also have a culture team. And so this is a culture club that sits in the US, and they connect with all these different culture champions who are heading up all the offices that we have globally. So across the 70 offices that we have culture champions sitting in all of those. And they're working on any initiatives to, drive our culture, to make Googlers remember why they came to work here in the first place, to make them value the place that they work for and value each other. And then finally, we have the analytics team, which are the feather in the cap of people operations. So these guys were started in 2006, and it was really a vision of Laszlo Bock, who's our senior vice president, to apply the same data rigor that engineers apply to their products. We want to apply that to our people and our people programs. And so I'm going to talk about two studies later on that hopefully will interest you in that world. So our culture, hopefully you've got some idea of the culture from walking around a little. It's not, well, it is a lot about the free food, but also, we have a lot of things, a lot of behaviors that we would encourage in our Googlers, and a lot of things that we value as a company. So in terms of the type of people that we would hire people that like to challenge the status quo, people that are loud, that have a voice, that want to use it, people that value freedom, that are creative, that are innovative. And in terms of what we care about, in terms of our values, we have empowerment, ownership, development, collaboration, innovation. All of those things are what we look for. And Jamie will talk about how we focus on those during the interview process. In 2004, Larry and Sergey had an IPO letter, and the first two sentences of it is, "We are not a conventional company, and we don't intend to become one." And for us, the three main tenets to make sure that that's not happening would be mission, transparency, and voice. So it's pretty rare, firstly, that a company has the same mission that they had 15 years ago when they started out. It's pretty rare that employees actually know what the mission is, that they remember the mission, that they care about it, and that they live by it. And for us, we truly believe that our products are improving people's lives on a day-to-day basis. We truly believe that the products that we have are enabling people, educating people, and are really driving change throughout the world all the time. Transparency is one of the things that I think really makes us stand out as a company compared to other companies. We are insanely transparent. For example, every Friday, we have a TGIF, which is based in the US. And Larry and Sergey stand on a stage, much like this, probably a little lower, and they take Q&A. They talk about the industry news. They talk about why we acquired Nest. They talk about why we didn't acquire any other company. And they take questions and answers from the audience. And so literally, Googlers are encouraged to ask any question they like. So people would ask questions like, how much did we pay for YouTube? Why did we pay that amount of money? To Larry, what is your favorite superhero? I think it was Spider-Man, actually. And Sergey's was Superman, because he likes the rocket boots. He's kind of obsessed with them. So the transparency is huge, and it's a really, really flat hierarchy, and people are encouraged to ask these questions. In addition, every quarter, our chairman, Eric Schmidt, presents to the board of directors. And then a week later, he will present to 40,000 Googlers on a video conference the exact same PowerPoint that he presented to the board of directors, and the exact way that he presented it, whoever else was in the room with him, and he'll answer Q&A again from the organization. So to us, transparency is hugely important, and it shows a trust that we have for our Googlers, and it shows a respect that we have for them, that we trust that what we are telling them won't actually get out into the organization, and get out beyond our organization. And that's really what keeps our culture so special, one of the reasons. Again, the voice that I mentioned earlier, if you have a voice, use it. If you don't want to use it, you probably shouldn't be here. We love people to stand up, to say exactly what they think, to push back about things that they think are wrong. We like people to disrupt the organization, to argue with the manager if they think that what the manager is choosing to do is actually the wrong thing for their team or for their group. So for us, those three tenets are really important in terms of building our culture. Open is better than closed. So that's another one of our mottos. Google's enterprise products, like our Gmail and our calendar and Presently and all those things that you might know about, hopefully you know about, have been built because Googlers in, I think it was 2007, wanted these products. So Googlers wanted products where they could collaborate in real time. Googlers wanted products where they could work faster, be more agile, and ensure that they're working at a speed and at a pace that suits them. And so for us, that is really just how we live on an ongoing basis throughout Google. We have the transparency that I talked about. We have all of our desks are open plan. So we put people in these small open plan desk areas, and then they can go off into these big, casual, relaxed areas where they will hopefully brainstorm, ideate, innovate, and come up with great ideas and things. So as Google grows, and as we want to retain and scale on our innovation, we need to be agile. So we need to be able to present ourselves to we need to be able to address any opportunity that is presented to us. And so for us, we create only as much structure as is necessary. So our job descriptions are pretty broad. Our job roles are pretty broad. We don't have people in their cookie cutter roles throughout the organization. We encourage mobility. I've worked in 5 different countries. I've worked across maybe 7 or 8 different jobs. We encourage people to move throughout the organization. If they're good, we want them to stay and just keep moving. We don't want them bored. We want them to continue to learn. And the picture that you see there is, this is Larry just standing on top of the TGIF that I talked to you about, so the Q&A. Our hierarchy in itself is really just super flat, and that's really what encourages the little structure that we strive for. In terms of our raw materials, I've talked to you a little bit about our Google Apps and the collaboration and the agility that it enables our Googlers to work by. Our managers are seen as resources, not bosses, so we want them to be enablers. To us, the team doesn't work for the manager works for the team. To us, a manager doesn't dictate. A manager is your partner and it's your coach. And it's not a top-down hierarchy in any way. We want them to be enablers and not blockers. So if a team is going at 150 miles an hour speed towards a project completion, we just want the manager to get himself out of the way or herself out of the way. We're just not interested in them holding back teams if the teams are going towards our mission. And finally, we have the environment that's geared for innovation. So we have whiteboards everywhere, primary colors to make you come up with these great ideas. These open spaces so you can all group together and come up with ideas. Our cafes have long tables where people can chat to each other and sit with people that they didn't necessarily come into the restaurant with. And through that, more ideas are born. So Gmail was born when 2 guys were playing table football and they were talking about that as an idea. And lo and behold, I'm sure 1 or 2 of you have a Gmail account. So our analytics team is really the final area that I'm going to talk to you about. And I'm going to talk to you about 2 studies. The analytics team started in 2006, and Prasad Sethi was brought in by Laszlo Bock to really build this team that would use this data and rigor and gathering all information so that our organization will know what we need to do in terms of making people decisions. One of the areas I'm going to talk to you about is Google Geist. So Google Geist is our employee engagement survey. Amy is part of our career development team, and she's going to be talking to you a bit about one of the specific outputs of Google Geist later on today. Google Geist closed at the end of January. We have 40,000 people in our organization, and we received a 93% response rate. So that's pretty big in terms of employee engagement surveys. And I put it down to a few things. So first of all, people are exceedingly competitive. Sales teams especially are very competitive, and all of the VPs have all of these competitions, and they have rewards that they're giving their teams if they get a really high response rate. So my VP for our next offsite is dyeing her hair all of the Google colors because we received 92% on the response and she'd asked for 90. Secondly, they love information. So our VPs, our management just love to know what our Googlers are thinking. If we have good people on our team, we want to keep them, and we want to know exactly how we can keep them. And we ask them about everything. We ask them about their work, their role, whether they feel innovative, the culture, their peers, their manager, their director, their VP. We go through the whole gambit, how they feel about benefits, culture, perks, everything. Another thing, another reason that I think that we get such a high engagement, other than the fact that we nag them everywhere to take the survey, is that we actually act on the results that we see. So it's not just people, filling in a survey and us presenting this really cleansed, nice deck that tells us that all the brilliant things that are amazing with our company and doesn't really mention the bad. We don't cleanse the data at all. We get the data. The VPs share the data with their organizations. Larry and Sergey share a Google level data, and it's not cleansed at all. We show the good, we show the bad, and we act on the bad, and that's the key thing. We're working through two major areas this year around performance management. That's a real change management piece for us, and we're completely revamping the whole approach that we've taken to performance management in the past. And that was really just because it's been a really low scorer for the last 3 years at Google Geist, and we just listened to Googlers and we're making this change. And Amy's going to talk to you about another output later on today. One of the other areas that I want to touch on is Project Oxygen. So you may or may not have heard about this. In 2006, when we hired all of these PhDs and these MBA guys, we put them in a room on their own with some food, and we told them to come up with questions, come up with hypotheses that they can prove or disprove. And one of the things that they came up with was, do good managers matter? Google had trialed something a few years prior to that where they actually decided to have no managers in the company at all. So they just completely removed all managers and just tried to see what was happening. It was a pretty small company then. It was maybe 400 people. And too many people were annoying Larry Page about their expenses and about their performance issues. And he decided to build out a management structure again, but not too big a one. And so these guys were thinking about, do good managers matter? And we spent a lot of time looking through a number of different resources to try and pull out the traits or the attributes that we are seeing around good managers. So we looked at all of the performance-related data of all our people managers. We looked at all of the Google Geist data where people talk about their managers and talk about the traits that they like about their managers. We looked at the nominations from an annual Great Manager Award that we run every year. And we looked at the qualitative nominator comments, so what the Googlers wrote about their manager, about why they were important, why they were good, what things they liked about them. And we pulled out these 8 traits, so I'm not going to go through them all. You can all read, or you can look it up online. But 2 of the things that came out to me that are really important, that really melds with our culture, is the communication piece. So we want a manager that's communicating up the chain, that's communicating down, that's listening, and that's sharing information. Another one is that we're looking for people that empower the team and don't micromanage. So like I mentioned earlier, we're looking for managers that if the team's just rocking 150 miles this way, just get out of the way and just let them go. And for us, what we have seen in terms of outcomes is the effective manager quality on employee retention is 1.2 times more effective for the employees than if they were looking at, say, their team size, or if they were looking at the level that they are in an organization. To them, manager and good manager is more important. In terms of Google Geist data, greater job satisfaction and better productivity. So the Googlers who had the good managers actually felt that they were more productive on a day-to-day basis. They felt way more satisfied in their jobs on a day-to-day basis. And just to round it out, we act on the results. So each of these Project Oxygen traits get rated on every 6 months. So Google Geist, we basically ask employees about their manager along these 8 traits. In August, we look at the upward feedback survey, and we're asking employees again about these 8 traits. And then we have training sessions that actually address each of these and really develop the manager further in each of these areas. And when we're interviewing, we touch on all of these as well to try and probe that we're getting the right manager in our organization. And there's a Q&A later and there's coffee break, so if anyone has more interest in those 2 studies, I'm happy to go through them with you. Finally, just in summary, we feel that at Google, if you create the environment that enables creativity, if you create the environment that gives employees freedom, they will amaze you. So if we're hiring good people, if we're respecting those people, showing them respect, showing them trust, and just trusting that they will do the right thing in the organization, chances are they will. For me, building an ecosystem that nurtures innovation and that nurtures creativity is the one thing that really makes us stand out from other companies. The culture that I mentioned and the innovation that I mentioned and the speed that we work in makes me realize that this is Google and this is how different we are from other folks. So that's it. Thank you very much.